Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming out to the Queen Tulsa Show. I'm your host, Goddess Tulsa. If you are a new subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. Tonight on the list, on the docket, we have Young Thug and Gunna. We have Young Thug and Gunna on the list tonight. Young Thug went to court on yesterday. And so they are in court on 56 charges, 56 indictments. And Young Thug went to court the other day, and Young Gunna went to court as well. Hello, Marva. How are you? And so, what we're going to do tonight is we are going to look at the court hearings. These are bond hearings. So give me a second and we will be right with you.
Mr. Steele's case. Mr. Steele, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. How are you, sir?
Good, always good to see you.
I feel the same, Your Honor. Always.
You doing okay?
I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad we were able to fit you in. Sorry you had to wait a minute. I appreciate your patience. Let me set up the case first. This is position 20, case number 22 CP 208957, Jeffrey Williams. And I want to say good afternoon to you, Mr. Williams. I'm Judge Wolf. This is your felony first appearance. Good afternoon. We're doing this remotely because of COVID. You have the right to remain silent. You're presumed innocent, and you have the right to an attorney. Your lawyer, Mr. Steele, is on the call. So let me start with you, Mr. Steele. This is a first appearance. Do you want to be heard on probable cause or just bond?
We will be heard on bond, Your Honor.
Okay. So let me ask, is this your case, Mr. Smith?
Yes, Judge.
And is this part of that same indicted case or something different?
That is correct. It is part of the indicted case, Judge.
Okay, if you could announce that first, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, Judge. So these charges, these warrants stem from indictment number 22 SC 1822273 as well, Your Honor. Would you like me to go ahead and proceed with my position on bond as well, Judge, or?
Yes, please.
Okay. So it's the state's position that given Mr. Williams access to resources, and given that we're still in the process of apprehending everyone on that larger indictment, Your Honor, it's the state's position that he is a flight risk, as well as there's a clear risk to hinder the administrations of justice, Your Honor. Officers executed a search warrant at the home of Mr. Williams. They recovered large quantity of drugs, several firearms, one of which including a automatic switch, making it a fully automatic machine gun. And given the nature of these allegations of bond, Your Honor, we would respectfully request that you deny bond.
And I just want to understand, Mr. Smith, you're saying that Mr. Steele's client, Mr. Williams, he was indicted on that same 22 SC 1822273 or not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And I thought that it was the state's position per the delegation order from Judge Brasher that this court, me being a magistrate court judge, that I don't have authority to consider bond. Is that the case, or are you saying that I do?
And just to clarify, Your Honor, with that indictment, that was a direct indictment. These are additional warrants that were taken out stemming from that particular indictment. Whether or not these new warrants will become a part of that indictment, a decision has not been made as of yet.
Got it. But they're within the four corners of indictment 22 SC 1822273. These warrants are not part of that indictment.
That is correct, Your Honor.
It would require a re-indictment if the state chose to do so.
That is correct.
Okay, so you do agree that these charges have not been assigned to Judge Plainville, they're unindicted, and it would be for the court to consider today.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, I understand. And it goes beyond Mr. Steele's case with Mr. Williams, but I just want to know for future reference today, Mr. Smith, I appreciate the update. Position 18, Diamante Kendrick, position 19, Martinez Arnold, they're in the same posture, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, got it. And Mr. Steele, just to bring you up to speed as well, there was a co-defendant or some.
So the guy that's 80A Smith, he's actually working for the state. So Ada Smith, he's working for the state. So that's the state's attorney. Um, so Young Thug's attorney, he's gonna have, I believe, like silver hair and like a blue suit. He'll be coming up here shortly.
Someone related, Sergio Kitchens, who was on the calendar earlier, represented by Mr. Samuel. His case, though, for today was strictly the case that was indicted a couple days ago. That was a different situation. I'm going to treat this just like a regular first appearance. So with that in mind, let me go back to you, Mr. Steele. Do you want to be heard on probable cause or you want to just be heard on bond?
On, Your Honor.
Okay, got it. So the court does find probable cause based on warrants, Mr. Williams, for the following charges: possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, possession of Schedule 3, 4, or 5 controlled substance with intent to distribute, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, possession of a sawed-off shotgun, sawed-off rifle, I think in this case the allegation is a machine gun, dangerous weapon or silencer, unlawful for a person employed or associated with a certain organization to conduct or participate in that organization, unlawful for, and there are three.
His 18 cycles beginning in 2008, he was a multi-state offender with arrest from the states of California and Georgia. Last arrest was
My apologies, the screen kind of froze and he left off with the judge saying 3 something, so there was a part that he missed.
Okay, well, let me just kind of back up. What I was saying was, sir, the court does find probable cause for possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, possession of a Schedule 3, 4, or 5 substance with intent to distribute, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and possession of a machine gun. And then there are 3 counts about unlawful association with certain groups. I don't know, Mr. Steele, if you want me to waive sounding of what the actual charge is. I was trying to talk around it. Those are the 3 charges that relate to the first 3 charges. That was the last thing I said, sir. So I now heard from pretrial 18 cycles starting in 2008 out of California and Georgia. Ms. Gordon, do you show anything else?
the last arrest was November of 2018 for possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute, purchase, possession, manufacture, distribution, or sale of marijuana. And that was in DeKalb County. No disposition listed, no felony convictions listed on the GCIC, nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, what's the state's bond recommendation, please?
My recommendation is that Mr. Williams remain in a no bond status, Your Honor. I'll reiterate, he's at a significant flight risk given his access to resources. There's also a clear risk of hindering the administration of justice, given that we have not apprehended everyone on the larger indictment, Your Honor, and given he's also at a risk of committing additional felonies. As you see within the last arrest, there was a possession of methamphetamines, and I believe officers also recovered that during the execution of their search warrant. So we would ask that bond be denied, Your Honor.
Do you show, though, that he has no felony convictions?
I believe that is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you from the state. Mr. Steele, please tell me about Mr. Williams and any bond recommendation you have, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Thank you for everything you do. Honorable Prosecutor Smith, thank you. Mr. Williams, Good afternoon. Your Honor, Mr. Williams is 30 years of age. He is an incredible human being walking among us. He has grown up in rubble here in the Cleveland Avenue area. He has made it where he has performed musically on every continent in this world except for Antarctica. He has performed his music in front of as many as 300,000 people at a time. He is signed to a record label. You have members of the record label on your Zoom link now if you want to hear from him. He just got back from Norway, from performing in Norway, and he got back the Sunday before Monday when law enforcement officers executed a search warrant on his home based upon the grand jury warrant. I was there at that time, Your Honor. There were at least 10 people who were in the house with Mr. Williams. These items that are being litigated now before your honorable court for those charges, those unindicted charges, all come from the execution of a search warrant. We are not agreeing that we are responsible for any type of crime. Mr. Williams has never been convicted of any type of felony. I have defended him for at least 10, if not more years, Your Honor. He is not a convicted felon. His case in DeKalb County arises out of a show that he was performing on the Jimmy Fallon show. He was going to an airport in DeKalb County on a private plane. He's in the car with two other people, and at that scene of that traffic stop, on body camera, another person took full responsibility of any type of illegal contraband. The Honorable DeKalb County Superior Court Judge Adams heard motion to suppress. I have the honor of representing Mr. Williams, granted the motion to suppress. The state appeal, it got reversed. And I have been trying to get that case done with in DeKalb County. It's now 4 years old and they have not shown any type of interest in moving the case. And I have letter after letter begging that this case be disposed of and Mr. Williams be cleared. Your Honor, Mr. Williams owns homes here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I don't disagree that people would consider that he has substantial resources. That is not a negative, that is a positive. He is not a flight risk. He has come back every single time from being anywhere located around this world. He would surrender his passport to me, although I believe law enforcement officers may have this passport, but if not, I will get that passport and I could surrender it to the sheriff, the court, hold it myself, whatever the court states. As far as interfering with the administration of justice, as argued by the honorable prosecutor, there is not a scintilla of evidence that Mr. Williams has done anything to try to obstruct justice or try to hinder people from turning themselves in or being arrested. In fact, when law enforcement officers came to his home, I was there, Your Honor, and telling firsthand, he was nothing but cooperative. He had his 14-year-old son with him at that time. In addition to that, the fact that the prosecution wants.
Okay, so I have to jump in right quick because Young Thug had his 14-year-old son at the house with him. They found narcotics in the house, they found guns in the house, and I'm surprised DFACS didn't run a case, and that's Department of Family and Children's Services. But we'll go ahead and continue.
There is going to be no evidence. You can craft, if you deem it appropriate, a bond order that he cannot be around weapons, although he's lawfully allowed to do it, but for purposes of bond, you can craft that order. The fact that he never obstructed the administration of justice. He's always come back to court when required to do so because I have defended him on those cases and any issues dealing with any other IALA factors, including intimidation of witnesses, they are not here. We are going to fight this case, Your Honor, all the way through until the prosecution either surrenders or a jury reaches its verdict. And I would ask you to please set a reasonable bond with whatever conditions you want. Now, with all that being said, I am not immune to what you said earlier. I understand that you have no jurisdiction, I heard you say that earlier, to deal with the indicted offense. So I understand that even if you do set bond here today, which is what I respectfully request, Mr. Williams is still in custody because we do have a pending indictment and we're waiting for the honorable judge.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize about that. We had a small interruption in the studio, but if
There's a
you
better
guys
way to
can
make money
give
on Amazon
us
than
just one
All
more
that being
moment,
said, I am not
we will
immune to what you said
have
earlier.
everything
I
back up
understand
and
you have no
running.
jurisdiction, I heard you say that earlier, to deal with the indicted offense. So I understand that even if you do set bond here today, which is what I respectfully request, Mr. Williams is still in custody because we do have a pending indictment and we're waiting on the Honorable Judge Lambo to set the hearing date for that bond.
Mr. Steele, two quick questions. One is, do you have a specific bond number in mind that you're asking the court to consider?
Yes, I would ask for a signature bond. There is no reason that Mr. Williams on these charges should have anything other than respectfully a signature bond. If you don't believe that that is appropriate, Your Honor, then whatever bond you believe to be reasonable, we will, I don't mind telling you, we will make the bond.
Okay, thank you. And also, just one last question, Mr. Steele, if you don't mind. You alluded to other people being on the call now. I leave that completely up to you. If you want them to be heard, if it's relevant to the issue of bond.
Mr. Williams major record label, and he is widely popular, Your Honor. Mr. Williams he's like the Babe Ruth of the musical industry. So, and you just got on your screen, Your Honor, two.
So, Young Thug's attorney decided to say that Young Thug is the Babe Ruth of the industry. He's okay. We're just going to keep listening. And after we get finished listening to this one, we are going to listen to Gunna's bond hearing, and then we'll move into the story of LILKEED and his passing.
People, I actually will vouch for them. They have been nothing but professional. I've known them for years. And that is the two people who I believe, if you could just raise your hands for the honorable court to see you. And if you have any questions, Your Honor, these are people, they are not convicted felons. They are business people. They are college graduates, and they have been around the world with Mr. Williams.
Okay, well, I do want to just acknowledge their presence here today. I always thank anybody who's here on a case. It could be someone here on behalf of the defense, it can be the victim, whoever it is. We always welcome everybody to the court, and I do consider your support of Mr. Williams as I consider bond at this time. And Mr. Smith, to be fair to both sides, do you have anybody on this call?
State does not, Your Honor.
Okay, I'd want to acknowledge anybody on either side of the case. But gentlemen, thank you to both of you. Now, I do want to just clarify, Mr. Smith, my understanding is that Mr. Williams, Jeffrey Williams, was indicted a couple days ago on the 22 SC Judge Glanville case, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And any bond that's to be considered on that case, per the delegation order from Judge Brasher, is going to go to Judge Glanville, and that's not before me today.
That's also correct.
Okay, and it's the state's position. You're asking for no bond. Mr. Steele's asking for a reasonable bond, preferably an unsecured judicial release. The reason for the state's request is risk of flight and considerations going to people who've not been arrested yet, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor, in addition to, that's correct. Your Honor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, Mr. Steele, I just want to be clear on this. Your client has no felony convictions. He does have an open DeKalb felony case from 4 years ago. So it's a while ago now. It's been up on appeal. It's back in the DA's office. Your perspective is it's not really getting any traction at this point, but the allegations are meth with intent and sale of marijuana.
There's a small amount, they're in a car, he's with two other people. The items are in a briefcase, and on the body camera, a passenger stated that that's my drugs, and
Yes.
that's it.
Okay. Thank you both. You both do a great service to your clients, and it makes the court's job, I think, a lot easier to do. So thank you both. Now, let me get back to you, Mr. Williams. So the court does find probable cause for the listed charges, like I mentioned earlier, based on the warrants. And at this time, the court's not going to set a bond. I do find that you're a flight risk. And I do agree for bond purposes with the entirety of the state's argument. I will say also, though, the court is very strongly considering that you've got 22 SC 182873 related to this same investigation before Judge Glanville. And I don't want to restrict Judge Glanville from making a decision on bond in regards to everything so that he can balance everything. So that's the order of the court today. It's no bond for those reasons.
Ryan, can I ask a question?
Of course.
You found the flight risk of a gentleman who has major ties to the community and grew up. But then you stated that you don't want to bind Judge Glanville. Is it the order of your court that you want to pass this to Judge Glanville? Because your order of no bond will restrict Mr. Williams.
I agree. I don't know how else to say it. The court agrees with the state's argument for this bond hearing today that your client is a flight risk, that he has traveled extensively. Even if you turn in his passport, that would not restrict his travel outside the state of Georgia. He has a lot of support, it appears, outside the state of Georgia. It might be hard to get him back to Georgia if you were to leave the state, and that could not restrict his interstate travel. I also mentioned Judge Glanville to consider that there's an open related case that at this point does not have a bond. And so it also makes sense for Judge Glanville to consider everything and for him not to be hamstrung by any decision that the court makes today. So it's not passing the buck, it's making a decision today based on what's in front of me now.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
You can set a condition that Mr. Williams is on an ankle monitor and confined to an area and not leave the state. But I would ask the court to please reconsider, because what you're doing now is setting a precedent of a risk of flight when there is zero evidence. The man leaves the country because of work.
Well, I will also add that there's a risk of committing additional felonies for the reason that there's an open possession of methamphetamine with intent, and sale of marijuana case pending. And that those are the same charges alleged here. Allegations in both cases. Ms. Williams, you're presumed innocent. I know Mr. Steele is going to already zealously representing you. But if we could put that on the order as well, that's no bond, risk to commit additional felonies as well. I appreciate your argument, Mr. Steele. Nobody does it better, but that's the order of the court. So we need to go in front of Judge Glanville down the road.
All right. So there we have it. So Young Thug, his bond was definitely denied, and that is Mr. Williams. And it's a very sad situation. Now we are going to move on to, we were going to do Gunna's trial. As a matter of fact, I think that we do need to do Gunna's trial since we are still on the topic right now. And give me 1 second. We're gonna pull his trial up because they're both in jail. Like I said, um, there's like 56 charges. Um, 56 indictment charges that are going on right now. And so it's just it's really a lot. It's really a lot going on right now. And one of the members, which is LILKEED, he is apparently not with us. So give us 1 second and we'll go ahead and start. We'll go ahead and start this. Give me 1 second. We'll go ahead and start the video. Okay. Share.
You will hear. Good morning, Mr. Kitchens. My name is Judge Wolf. We're going to go on the record now. This is our first appearance warrant calendar, position 14. The indictment number is 22 SC 182273. The state versus Sergio G. Kitchens. And Mr. Kitchens, again, I'm Judge Wolf. This is a calendar to let you know what's going on with your case. There are a few issues that we might take up. I want to remind you that you're presumed innocent. You have the right to remain silent, and you have a right to a lawyer. Your lawyer, Mr. Samuel, as well as Mr. Garland, they're on the call. We're doing all this remotely because of COVID. So we also have the prosecutor on the case, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, if I could begin with you, sir. From the state's perspective, this is a little bit different because the case has been indicted. What is the state asking the court to do, if anything, today?
The state's position is that because this is a direct indictment, jurisdiction will lie with the Superior Court Judge, the Honorable Judge Glanville, I believe has been assigned to this case.
Okay, and I did see that on Odyssey. It looks like Judge Glanville, who is an elected Superior Court judge, was assigned the case. So, Mr. Smith, is it your position that probable cause has been established by the indictment?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay, and the other issue that often comes up with these first appearance calendars is bond. And so do I understand you that you're asking Judge Glanville to take up any bond issues?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Let me hear from Mr. Samuel on both issues, the PC and the bond. Anything you would like to add, sir?
Your Honor, there's nothing to add on the probable cause. Obviously, the indictment's been returned, so we can't challenge the probable cause. We do believe that you have concurrent jurisdiction to consider bond. This is a case in which Mr. Kitchens is, I'm sure you haven't had time to read through the indictment in this case, but the allegations, just reading the indictment itself and nothing more, it is so clear that he is entitled to bond. There are, in essence, 2 traffic offenses, not trafficking, but motor vehicle traffic offenses that are alleged. I represented him in one of those cases, and he was found guilty of a window tint violation. That's the RICO allegation with regard to 4 or 5 of the paragraphs of the RICO indictment. The other one claims that he was speeding and got a speeding ticket. Actually wasn't even the driver. And someone in another car had a gun. With regard to, and the only other allegations in the RICO indictment involve lyrics. for some of his songs, some of which are some of the most internationally famous songs right now. Top songs on Billboard, #1 albums in the country, and the prosecution has indicted him, alleging those lyrics as being part of the reasons why he's guilty of a RICO offense. He voluntarily surrendered yesterday. He wasn't picked up. We called the sheriff, said, we're coming down. We know the indictment was just returned. I talked to the DA, Mr. Geary, told him we were coming down. Nobody had to go pick him up. He poses no risk of flight at all. He's been born and raised in Georgia, been here his whole time. His mother is sitting across the table from me here in my office. And he has no felony convictions of any kind. We are sitting here in jail at this point on a RICO allegation involving 2 motor vehicle offenses plus lyrics. And that is it, Your Honor. And they have to wait for however many weeks it's going to take to get on a calendar with Judge Glanville, on a 26 defendants in this case. And I think you have concurrent jurisdiction. I've had plenty of cases where magistrates have set bond in cases. This isn't a case in which the magistrate lacks jurisdiction to set bond. It's not one of the 7 deadly sins.
May I ask a question? And I apologize for cutting off Mr. Samuel.
That's okay.
I want to just deal with that threshold question first. The court does tend to agree with some of what you said, that this isn't one of those offenses where bond would only go to a Superior Court judge.
Correct.
There is concurrent jurisdiction on the bond,
Whose screen you want?
but I do want to hear from
Full
Mr.
screen,
Smith
yeah.
from the state.
Whose screen?
Is there,
Whoever's talking.
you're saying that you would rather Judge Glanville hear the bond, correct?
Judge, what I'm saying is that this case has been indicted, and this has already been assigned to Glanville. So I believe jurisdiction lies with Judge Glanville.
And so do you have any legal authority at this point to say that the court does or does not have authority to consider bond today?
I can pull it for you, Judge. But again, with it already being assigned, I believe it's the jurisdiction with the Superior Court. But I can get that for you.
And Mr. Samuel, I appreciate that. Mr. Samuel suggests that there's no court date scheduled before Judge Glanville. You might have said this earlier, but when was it indicted?
Indicted.
The 9th, Your Honor.
The 9th, Your Honor.
Okay, 2 days ago. Okay, and do you agree, Mr. Smith, that the indictment issue notwithstanding, that based on the charge that Mr. Kitchens was indicted for, that the magistrate court would have authority to set bond on that charge? You're just saying because the case has been indicted, it needs to go to Judge Glanville.
And it has been assigned to Judge Glanville.
Right. And is there any word from Judge Glanville's office that they want to handle this and that they don't want this court to hear the bond issue?
Not that I'm aware of at this time, Judge.
Okay.
We're
And
not aware of that either, Your Honor, just so you know.
okay. And so, I just want to make sure, Mr. Smith and Mr. Samuel, that the court starts with the premise that I don't have authority to do anything in particular unless the law expressly allows the court to do it. And I'm just a little concerned, Mr. Smith, where you say, and I respect your position, that because the case has been indicted and assigned to Judge Glanville, that would remove jurisdiction. And you said that there's authority for that. I can do one of 2 things. I can either just say in the court's discretion, I'll move it on to Judge Glanville and let him hear bond. But the court is a little bit concerned that there's no court date scheduled for that. Or I would need some kind of authority from the state indicating, or some indication from Judge Glanville's office that they would prefer to handle the bond issue. It is a conspiracy to violate RICO charge. It's 1 count. So what's the state's position on that? Do you have any authority for the court?
Just, may I have a brief moment, Judge?
Yes, of course. And I don't want to rush you. I don't want to rush either side.
I just
Yeah,
want to
the-
get I want to get the relevant authority for you, to show that it's within the jurisdiction of the Superior Court.
Oh, thank you.
And Mr. Smith, you can check your email. I sent you a copy of the delegated
And for everybody here for the 11:30 calendar, we'll get started soon. I appreciate everybody's patience. We'll resolve this case one way or the other in the next several minutes.
Your Honor, I just want to clarify that we're dealing, which case are we dealing with right now?
It's position 14 on the first appearance warrant calendar. It's 22 SC 182273.
Thank you.
Yes. And good morning to you, Ms. Mackey.
Good morning, Your Honor.
How would you like to report a 2-to-1 return on ad spend?
I'll see him right now. Check the next screen.
So this is where you do that. It took this alphabetical order, B, C.
Looking at 2021 EX 001071, an order delegating the setting of bail. It was filed June 11th, 2021. And it does give this schedule. It's signed by Judge Brasher as the Chief Judge of the Superior Court of Fulton County Atlanta Judicial Circuit. One of the things that it says is that the judges of the Superior Court of Fulton County Atlanta Judicial Circuit hereby order and authorize the delegation of the authority to set bonds to magistrate and state courts. And I want to say to you, Mr. Kitchens, I'm a magistrate court judge. The delegation of the authority to set bonds to magistrate and state court judges for a period of 1 year, so we're still under that year, pursuant to OCGA 176(1)H, under the following conditions. And we've already mentioned that there are certain charges not before the court today, not delegated for any case, regardless of the charges involved, that has been indicted and assigned to the docket of a Superior Court judge. So I do want to hear from Mr. Samuel. You were talking about Rule 26.1. I want to give both sides ample opportunity to argue this issue. The court is sensitive to any defendant in jail without bond, but I also must follow and respectfully follow Judge Brasher's order, as well as the laws and constitution of our state. So with that, Mr. Samuel, we can get you a copy of that delegating order, but it seems to speak directly to this situation.
It does. I don't have a copy of the delegating order. I still maintain that you have concurrent jurisdiction both by statute and by the uniform rules. And I'm not sure that Judge Brasher necessarily was absolutely depriving you of the ability to do it, because there's plenty of cases where magistrates do it. We have no word from Judge Glandel saying that, you know, with a 26 defendant case, he's gonna, you know, suspend everything else, the important matters that he has, and deprive the magistrate of, you know, your expertise to grant bonds. And especially, as I said, in a case like this where, you know, the defendant's in custody, he turns himself in, voluntarily surrenders, there's no allegations of violence, there's no allegations of flight, no allegations of any danger to the community. And, you know, Judge Glanville, for all we know, is gonna, you know, set this down for a hearing sometime in June or July, because it's just a 26 defendant case. And I think that, you know, given your authority, let the prosecution appeal if they want to appeal the granting of bond in this case. They have the authority to appeal and see if Judge Glanville, he may very well welcome having you give him assistance. Obviously we all trust you, Judge Wolf. You've been around longer than, not everybody, but most people. And so we think you ought to hear from us on bond.
Okay, well, I will dispute two things you said about any expertise I have, and also that I could help Judge Glanville in any way. He does a fine job and doesn't need my help. I just take the reading of that order from Judge Brasher. It's something that I apply regularly when I handle these calendars, and I'm not going to make an exception today. So respectfully, all those bond issues are absolutely relevant, Mr. Kitchens, but they need to be taken up before Judge Glanville because he was assigned the indicted case. If you were just in front of me, like a lot of other people on this calendar, unindicted, then absolutely I would consider bond. But I don't have the authority to do it today. So any other issues need to go before Judge Glanville. And so with that, is there, Mr. Samuel, anything else for the defense that I can say or address?
The only thing I can say, Your Honor, is that we will contact Judge Glanville's office. We've been trying to reach over there today and see if he will authorize you to consider bond, and hopefully we can get back before you, maybe not later today, but within a day or so, to see if he will authorize you to do it, notwithstanding Judge Brasher's standing order.
And I appreciate that. Court's always here to serve everybody in a neutral, even-handed way. And so if that situation arises, we're here. And so in the meantime, Mr. Samuel, Mr. Garland, very good to see both of y'all. Do you have any other cases on the calendar?
Nothing else from the defense, Your Honor.
Okay, well, be safe. Hope to see both of you soon.
All right. So there you have it. You have Young Thug and you have Gunna, and those were their bond hearings. They both were denied. Now we must move over to LILKEED. This rapper has went on to glory. Yes, he went on to glory. Let's see. He went on to glory May 14th. So Saturday, which is today, right now, he has went on to glory. And we will go ahead and share some information with you all. The hip hop community was shocked late Friday night when YSL member LILKEED reportedly passed away. For death is unknown at this time. The news was confirmed by his brother, Lil Goddard. Other hip hop artists shared their condolences. RIP LILKEED, what the fuck? Can't believe I'm seeing this right now. I'm sick to my stomach. My brother was a good hearted nigga for real. Lil Gunnar. I'm sick, bruh. No way. RIP LILKEED. DJ Scheme. RIP LILKEED. Pray for YSL. Doughboy. This all follows Young Thug, Gunna, and 26 other members of YSL with conspiring to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations RICO Act, murder, armed robbery, and participation in criminal street activity. According to the 56 count indictment, Young Thug is facing charges of participation in street gang activity and conspiring to violate the RICO Act, while Gunna is facing one count of conspiring to violate the RICO Act. The RICO Act is a wide ranging act that applies to 35 criminal offenses. It covers crimes frequently associated with organized crime, including illegal gambling, prostitution, collection of unlawful debt, money laundering, and murder for hire. The grand jury indicted them, citing YSL as a criminal street gang that started in the late 2012 in the Cleveland Avenue area of ATL. YSL claims affiliation with the National Bloods gang, Just days ago, LILKEED was advocating for his YSL peers as they remain incarcerated. Rakib Brender, aka LILKEED, was born in Atlanta, Georgia, the sixth of seven children. Render grew up in Forest Park, later moving to Atlanta on Cleveland Avenue. After the death of his close friend, Rudy, Lil Keed started taking rap seriously in 2016 and signed to YSL shortly after. His first song, To Gold, was Nameless in 2018. Both his studio albums, Long Live Mexico and Trapped on Cleveland 3, charted in the Billboard 200. Okay. And so we definitely want to send prayers up to Lil Keed, his family, and all those that are affected by the news. And, it's just really, 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 really sad because Lil Keed, as we just read that article, had shared some words of encouragement to his YSL family. Okay. So Jeffrey Young Thug Williams, and Sergio Gunna Kitchens are moving over 2 dozen people indicted on RICO charges in Georgia. Prosecutors believe the Young Thug Stoner Life Records representatives are members of the Blood Street Gang. As a district attorney of Fulton County, my number one focus is targeting gangs, and there's a reason for that. They're committing conservatively 75% to 80% of all the violent crime that we are seeing within our community. And so they have to be rooted out of our community, said Fulton County DA Fannie Willis. Attorneys for both Young Thug and Gunna have insisted their respective clients are innocent. Another YSL rapper expressed support for his compadres as and crew as well. Lil Key took to Instagram to share a message about the situation. YSL is a family. YSL is a label. YSL is a way of life. YSL is a lifestyle. YSL is not a gang. YSL is not a criminal organization. YSL is not a street gang. YSL is not a mob. Y posted Lil Keed. The 24-year-old Atlanta native released several projects, such as 2019's Long Live Mexico and 2020's Trapped on Cleveland 3, via the YSL label. Lil Keed earned a gold plaque for his nameless single. Authorities charged Young Thug with 9 counts, including conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, as well as participation in criminal street gang activity. Gunna is also facing a RICO charge. And so there are 56 charges. There are definitely 56 charges. So give me 1 second and I will definitely um, read these off to us. Okay, so the first one The first one is going to be conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. The second one is going to be murder. The third one is going to be armed robbery. The fourth one, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The fifth one is going to be aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The sixth one is going to be of possession of firearm during commission of a felony. The seventh one is going to be possession of a firearm during commission of a felony. The eighth indictment is going to be theft by receiving stolen property. The ninth one is going to be violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. Okay. And so number 10 is going to be violation of Georgia Controlled Substances Act. 11 is going to be possession of a firearm by convicted felon. 12 is going to be participation in criminal street gang activity. Okay, so did I say, was that 11 or 12? Okay, so that was 12. 13 is going to be theft by receiving stolen property. 14, armed robbery. 15, armed robbery. 16, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. 17, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. 18, hijacking a motor vehicle in the first degree. 19, possession of firearm during commission of a felony. 20 is going to be possession. Okay, so 20 is going to be possession of firearm during commission of a felony. 21, participation in criminal street gang activity. 22, participation in criminal street gang activity. 23, participation in criminal street gang activity. 24, violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. 25, possession of a firearm by convicted felon. 26, participation in criminal street gang activity. Okay, and then armed robbery was 27. 28 is hijacking a motor vehicle in the first degree. 29 is possession of firearm by first offender probationer. 30, possession of a firearm by convicted felon. 31, theft by taking. 32, attempted murder. 33, attempted murder. 34, possession of firearm by a first offender probationer. 35, possession of a firearm by a first offender probationer. 36, possession of a firearm during a commission of felony. So 37 is going to be, so now we're on 37, right? So 37 is possession of firearm during commission of a felony. 38 is participation in criminal street gang activity. 39, participation in criminal street gang activity. 40, attempted murder. 41, possession of weapon by incarcerated individual. 42, participation in criminal street gang activity. 43, participation in criminal street gang activity. 44, possession of weapon by incarcerated individual. 45, possession of a telecommunication device by incarcerated individual. 46, participation in criminal street gang activity. So 47 is going to be conspiracy to commit a crime. 48, participation in criminal street gang activity. 49, murder. 50, participation in criminal street gang activity. 51, participation in criminal street gang activity. 52, possession of firearm by convicted felon previously convicted of felony involving the use or possession of a firearm. 53, possession of firearm by convicted felon previously convicted of felony involving the use or possession of firearm. So that was 53. Okay, so that was 53. Give me 1 second. So that was just 53. So 54 possession of firearm during commission of a felony. 55, conspiracy to commit a crime. And 56, participation in criminal street gang activity. And that was on May 9th, 2022. Okay, so we definitely have a lot to cover. And rest in peace to LILKEED. You know, I remember there was this one song. It was a. I don't know if I could play the instrumental, but LILKEED, I only knew one song from him, but it's just really sad. He died 2 days before his birthday, you know, and it's it's different. And you know what? Artists are worth more, unalive than, whatever. So I'm pretty sure people are going to be listening to his music and really giving him support. But if you guys have any input or if you want to sound off on this topic, definitely hit the chat. This is an independent content creators channel. I am Queen Goddess. My cash app is beautiful 070707. And if you want to support me on other cash programs, you have Cash App, you have Zelle, which is Queen Tulsa, Oklahoma at gmail.com on Zelle. And on PayPal is Keeping Up with Yo Queen on PayPal. Hello, how are you? Yes. Um, but yeah, so you guys can definitely support me on those platforms. And we're actually going to wrap it up because we've been here for 57 minutes. And I'm really just trying to make it an hour live because, you know, we definitely got to make it an hour. But, it's really sad how our brothers are just leaving up out of here. Like, they are dropping like flies and they are young. I did post a link in the chat, so if you want to come up and just visit and chat and, kind of sound off on the topic that we're talking about, we're talking about the YSL um, gang members and their members, well, one of their members passed away. And so, it's never a good time, when, someone loses their loved one. We say, you know, we don't know what went on. Allegedly, it was a drug overdose. Allegedly, somebody unalived him. However, you know, the details are definitely going to come out. The story is going to hit the news stations, and we all should hear something pretty soon. However, you heard it here first, live. And I definitely want to thank you all for coming out. I'm your host, Goddess Tulsa. This is the Queen Tulsa Show. And before we leave, please like, share, and subscribe and tell your friends about us. We are out. Hello, and thank you for coming by Keeping Up with Queen Tulsa. I am your host, Queen Tulsa.